Hey everyone, it's Jeff and Jeff, and as promised, we wanted to share how our trip's going with you and talk about the shows that we're seeing. So far, we're having a great time. We've only been here for a day and a half, and we've already seen 3 shows, which is craziness. But that's kind of was the main reason why we came out here, and we're having a great time. So I think we're gonna do one video for each show that we see. So the first one that we did yesterday, like while we were on our flight still, we were looking at shows for that evening, and one of our favorite shows from last trip had availability and had a show time that was late enough that we could actually catch it, even if we had problems getting to our hotel from the airport, which we did. So I'm really glad we picked the only 9 o'clock show that we could possibly find, and that was Titanique, which we saw last year, and we think it's the only show out of the ones that we saw last year that's still running, because a lot of things have closed and new things have come in. But Titanique is this like little off-Broadway show that just keeps going and going and going, and after seeing it last night, I think it's still gonna run for quite some time. Like, this could go for years. It was pretty much sold out last night, and still as funny as we remembered it. So for those of you that don't know, Titanique is a parody musical about the movie version of Titanic. Thank God it's only about half as long, though. Titanic is, by the way, is not one of my favorite movies. But this is, I think, just the way the show is written, and I think, tell me what you think about this, but I feel like if you like Titanic, you'll like this show, and if you hate Titanic, you'll like this show.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
And the thing that makes...
There's enough in it for the people that like the movie to be like, oh, I love that part,
and then the people, those of us that think it's cheesy as hell, are like, oh, great, you picked up on how awful that moment is and decided to make fun of it. What makes Titanic really, really funny is the premise is it's all done with hits sung by Celine Dion, including, of course, My Heart Will Go On. But it's also narrated by Celine Dion and told by her as if she was actually on the ship, and she firmly in this show believes that she was on the Titanic, and when she's confronted with like, well, that would make you 150 years old, she's like, what's your point? And it just is so ridiculously silly and stupid that it works. And the women that we've now seen 2 different women play Celine, and both have just nailed the physicality of Celine Dion, and like the voice, including the speaking voice, and like all of the Celine Dion isms, like the, you know, like, and like super exaggerated and super like, I don't know if she would be.
If Celine saw it, or maybe she has. I don't know, but
I don't know if she has. I'm sure she knows of it.
Like that?
I'm sure she's either like completely like thinks it's hilarious, or thinks it's highly offensive, or a little of both. I don't know, but I mean, it's. I feel like it's all done like in good fun. Like they're celebrating her and all of her silliness and craziness, and like the diva persona that is Celine Dion. And last night we actually saw a standby. So the current Celine is supposed to be Di Rossioli, who, and I'm probably butchering her last name, and I'm sorry about that, but she was one of the early replacements for Elphaba in Wicked on Broadway. Turns out a lot of former Elphabas are going through this show as Celine. Very similar, I guess, vocal ranges for both. And like, if you can pull off Elphaba and carry that show, you can carry this one. But last night we saw the standby, who is Tess Marshall, and she was just incredible vocalist and hilarious, and interacted with the audience a ton and improvised a ton. There's one of our favorite scenes in the show is 100% improvised, and she's like feeding the other actors lines as she makes them up on the spot, and it's like different every night and just really, really fun. But she was amazing, and like hats off to all of the standbys and understudies and swings on Broadway and Off-Broadway. What y'all do is so incredibly hard, and you do it so well, and like to anchor a show when it's not typically your role that you're playing, like that's I have so much respect for that. The rest of the cast was also phenomenal. Are there any standouts for you? I mean, there were several for you, but who were your standouts?
I still like the Jack. He was there last year.
Yeah, and that was, what's his name? Michael Williams, and yeah, he was in the show last year.
I mean, there's not a weekly meal cast.
No, honestly, like and that was like one of the joys about this is like, one, it's a show where you can tell everyone in the cast and crew, and even the orchestra, because the band's on stage, so you get to see them too. Everyone's having a good time. Like, I think they're having just as good of a time, if not a better time, than the audience. And they're still messing with each other, and like there were several times where you could tell like there's probably an unofficial game going on or backstage about like who's gonna make who break at some point in the show, because there were a lot of character breaks, but I feel like it's one of those shows where like that actually enhances the show and makes it even more fun. But yeah, he was incredible. Great vocalist. The other one that was really fun to watch was Lisa Howard as Molly Brown. Again, great vocalist. She's done several Broadway shows. If you are a fan of the show 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, she was in that original cast. And my God, that woman can belt like crazy. And then I think we saw an understudy as Rose's mother. Rose's mother is always played by.
Understudy?
I'm pretty sure he was. And that
hilarious.
His name is Barnaby Ritter, and scene stealer. Like there's a moment where this character gets to go on this giant tirade where she's like slapping people around and destroying pieces of the set and messing with the band and like yelling at the I think even yelling at the audience at one point, and just like milked that moment for all it was worth, and just it really fun to watch. Any like favorite moments for you in this show?
The tirade, and then just that scene that's always ad-libbed where she's narrating for the two characters. It's meant to be a moment where the two characters are trying to get to know each other better. So like last night, she actually kind of did that as an ad-lib, where Rose would say something, "Oh, I did this when I was a kid," and Jack would say something else. But in other ones that we've seen on Instagram, it's like, no, they're telling completely off-book stories that are. So this one was a bit more on point.
Last night, Jack's backstory seemed very eerily similar to a certain Alexander Hamilton. And the other things that I love is just like there are certain iconic things from the movie that they send up so well. The one that always like makes me just cackle is there's a certain scene in the movie involving a car, and if you've seen the movie, you know what happens in that car. And just imagine if that car was a Fisher-Price car for kids. That's all that I think I need to say about that moment. It's just like so clever, and a show that's like very simply done, simply staged, but just a joy. And I'm really excited. We follow their social media, and the show is kind of spreading around the world now. It's I think Australia, London, Chicago. I'm hoping that it gets a national tour. I feel like this could go into a lot of like smaller venues that typically don't get national tours, because the theater that it's in, the Darryl Roth Theater, seats maybe I don't know, 300, 400. Like it's a small venue.
Really cool venue. It's in an old bank, the Union Square Bank, right next to Union Square. Yeah, so that's kind of fun. And like what you would picture if someone said Old Tiny Bank.
Yeah,
it's
it's
white columns,
very stately. But then
White House-esque.
Yeah, but then inside this like old bank is this really intimate performing space, and it's a theater where like there's not a bad seat in that place. Last time we got rush seats and we're in like the second row. This time we were a little further back, but not by much. And like honestly, even if you were in the back row of that theater, the back row is still pretty dang close. So if you are in New York and you haven't seen Titanic, or if you're planning a trip out here, definitely worth a visit. It's a cheaper ticket than some of the Broadway shows, and quite honestly, more entertaining than some of the stuff that you're gonna find anywhere else in the city. And also, I think it's one that's like it's got that repeat watchability factor because of the improv style of the show and the audience interaction pieces of the show. It's just a fun time, and I mean, I would go see it again. If it is playing the next time we're out here, we'll probably see it another time because it's just that fun. So that was Titanic. That was our first night, and then today we did a 2-show day, and I'm gonna post some future videos about those. See you later, everybody. Bye.